Hello, welcome to episode 17 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. We're going to the 40s. We're going to a Charlie Chaplin film called Monsieur Verdoux, in which Chaplin plays a French murderer. Apparently this was loosely based on true events, and he plays a Bluebeard. He plays a man who, his name is Henry Verdoux, but he takes many different guises. He's a con man. But he's a con man with a penchant for murder, and it's called A Comedy of Murders in the opening sequence of the film, and it's a real interesting film. It's one that I read the synopsis for and thought, I can't see this working. It doesn't seem to fit a Chaplin film. You look at all of his silent films, from The Kid to The Gold Rush, The Circus, City Lights, Modern Times, and they all have that heart to it. His character is always someone who does the right thing and is a good guy. You go to Monsieur Verdoux and he's a murderer, but it's played for laughs, and it's a real weird situation where I just thought, I don't know if this is going to work. Totally did. I don't know how he pulled it off, but this was a really good film that was just absolutely batshit bonkers, and I loved it. It was really weird. And I guess I could say I wish that it was talked about more, like I haven't seen The Great Dictator yet, but I wish that it was talked about more, as with his other great films. But it's in the book, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, so obviously it is held in high regard, in some circles at least. I just never heard of it. I'd never heard of it. When you talk about Chaplin, you know, you talk about, again, The Gold Rush, The Kid, City Lights, Modern Times. Those are the ones people go to. The Great Dictator. But this one and Limelight don't get mentioned as much, and particularly Limelight, which I'll get to at another point in the series. I think it's in the book. It should be. Anyway, back to Monsieur Verdoux. Again, one of those weird films where it's set in a country where, you know, you have all actors who aren't playing the same nationality. So it takes place in France. All the characters are French, and they all speak in English accents and in English, and it's just kind of weird. And not all English accents, there's a couple of people with American accents, I think, but that's neither here nor there. It's one of those kind of movie conceits you have to kind of go along with, I guess. Is that the right word? I don't know. It's just kind of you know, you just have to kind of go, well, it's a movie, you know. And I suppose Chaplin really wanted to set this in France, so he did. And I don't know whether that was his love. Maybe he has a love of all things French. Maybe he felt like it needed to be set in France because the story is based in the true story was based. Well, I'm not saying the true story was based somewhere. The true story happened in France. I don't know. But basically, his character was a banker, I believe, who, you know, there was cuts, you know, and he was laid off, and so he has a wife. He has, you know, a kid. And he has to support them, but he hasn't got a job to do that. So he somehow went into business. This is how Verdoux views this murdering. He views it as a business, and we soon find out that he has multiple wives across France, who he goes around. He seduces them. You know, when they have money, he marries them under false names, false, you know, everything. And it's usually, well, it's always, you know, he gives them a name. And he gives him a profession where he's away a lot of the time, you know, whether he's a naval captain or whatever, you know, he's always away, and he'll come back every now and again. And we see, and I love how we kept seeing different versions. Like, he'd come back to this one woman, she's like, well, where have you been? You've been gone for so long. And he's like, I know, I got to go tomorrow morning as well, but, you know, have you got this money? You know, and then we see, like, other wives that he has, and other women he has set his target on seducing and making his next wife. And also we see that the police is slowly cottoning on to something with the disappearances of these women once he, in fact, murders them once he's got what he wants. So they're on his tail. They're looking out for someone who is targeting these women and has made a pattern over the years. And yeah, basically, he's a guy who thinks it's a business, and he basically just wants to support his wife and his kid. And I couldn't help but not think of Breaking Bad, because it's kind of similar in a way. But he's taken it to an extreme right off the get-go. You know, he didn't say, right, I need to support my family. I'm going to go into bank robbery or anything. No, I'm gonna seduce women and sleep with them, then kill them and take their money. But it's somehow like, I don't know how, because sometimes I get kind of a bit, what's the word? Stiff about these kind of films. I get a bit what's the word? I can't think of the word right now. I get a bit kind of what's the word? I can't think of it. Stiff, I guess, about films like this where it deals with murder flippantly, I suppose. Like Pain and Gain was a film a couple of years ago, which was about a true murder, or a couple of true murders, I think. I've tried to block most of it out of my memory, and it was, it's recent kind of history. People who were murdered and killed for real. And Michael Bay made this film where they kind of turned it into a bit of a joke with The Rock and Mark Wahlberg, and they're making it funny for the audience. I just didn't like that at all. Did not sit right with me. I thought that it was wrong to fictionalize or make true events into a story to entertain people for laughs. That just didn't sit right with me. So, that it's purely down to opinion. I don't. If other people enjoy that kind of thing, that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't and that you're a bad person for doing so. It just doesn't sit right with me. And again, the only way I can think of is I'm being stiff about it, or I'm being I don't know, like old-fashioned about it. I don't know. But with Monsieur Verdoux, I didn't really get that. It was funny. And that sounds like I'm really like, I don't like anyone being killed in films. No, not at all. I mean, I can watch a film like Goodfellas and really enjoy it. And again, that's probably that's based on a true story as well, and true people who died. So I don't know. I don't know where the line is drawn. I really don't. I suppose with Pain and Gain, it was more recent history that bothered me. And maybe I'm just being a hypocrite because I enjoy other films that have murderous elements that are based on true events. So yeah, perhaps that's just me being a complete hypocrite. I'll admit to that. But there's just something about this film that made me think about, why am I not getting stiff about this? Why am I enjoying the fact? Because it's played so humorously by Chaplin. And even though he plays this guy who is killing women, he never really loses that Chaplin charm, which is really interesting and funny and endearing, but also that he is putting something into this film about the value of life, I think, and I think it's an interesting point that he made. At one point he gets this formula for a poison that is untraceable, and he wants to test it out before he uses it on one of his many wives. So his kind of idea, and he said this to his friends who don't know anything about his life, where he goes off and kills people, but he kind of poses it as a hypothetical, that he would test this poison on someone off the street who had no value to their life, just to see. So he does that. He makes this poison, and he finds a woman, he brings her in off the street, and he puts his poison in a drink. And he slowly gets talking with her, and she says how miserable her life is and stuff, and he's saying, well, wouldn't it be great if you could just go to sleep and that would be it, no pain, nothing, and you could be out of your misery. And she says, well, no, life is hard. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but she says life is hard, but it's a life to be lived, and that I've got, that she basically she sparks that thing in him where her life is worth something, or at least that she's someone who sees value in life, even if she's at a low ebb in her own life. And so he decides not to. He takes the drink away, and he kind of spares her life. And so it shows you that he has some humanity left to him still, but at the same time he still is doing these things. And you see that his wives are not very likable people. In fact, you could say they're not very good people. But I still wouldn't say that justifies the murdering. But it gives you more of a human element to Verdoux' character. It's not a complete cold-blooded murder fest. But there's a really funny, like the fact that the most annoying of his wives and stupidest is like the hardest to kill. Like he keeps trying to pick his spot to knock her off, and she inadvertently just keeps like thwarting him at every end, and it's just really funny. And then it all kind of comes crashing down towards the end. I thought the character of the woman who he brought in from the street and almost killed was a brilliant character. I don't know who the actress was, but she was fantastic in the film. Really enjoyed her performance, and it was kind of, I think, pivotal to the film by the end, her relationship with him, which doesn't last very long in the film, but it certainly is impactful on Verdoux' life, I think. And the ending, there's a speech there which is very interesting, where he says that, and again I'll paraphrase because I can't remember exactly what he said, but the gist of it was that you know, one death makes a murderer, a million makes a hero, right? And business is a ruthless business. Like, it's an interesting point, which is one that I think about a lot in terms of war, and how people in the army and so on, they have a license to kill, and that they're lauded as heroes for doing that, because it's done in this bulk way and for the greater good. And that's something that's never really sat right with me, is how, I mean, I know that it becomes a necessity with war, and I'm not taking away anything from anyone who's served in the forces and stuff like that, but for me personally, I find it crazy how it's an insane idea that it's okay to kill someone because someone else has deemed it necessary, or they've deemed it okay because they have the money and the guns and the power to do so. That's always something that's, and I feel like he's kind of trying to make a point about that there. I don't think it really lets Verdoux off the hook in terms of what he's done, but it's certainly a point worth making about how we treat life in general, and it's certainly a point that still carries over today. It's kind of a timeless point, I think, about one death makes a murderer, a million makes a hero. So yeah, that's one of the things I took away from it, but it's still it's an enjoyable film, and it's made well. You know, the script is great. All the scenes are put together really, really well. You know, Chaplin was just such a superb writer, director, let alone performer. And when you put all those three things together, it just makes for magic every time. I think I've yet to see a film that Chaplin has made in which he stars and writes and directs that hasn't been at least a great film. And this was a great film. It wasn't top tier Chaplin. It wasn't up there with, you know, Limelight or The Kid or you know, his other great films, but for me it was certainly a fantastic film that was very enjoyable on many different levels, from an emotional level, from a comedic level, and it really, really surprised me, and I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't already, or if you've seen a lot of other Chaplin films and this one just doesn't seem right for you. And I've got to commend Chaplin for having the balls to make a film like this, and this was towards the end of his time in America. You know, Chaplin was British. He moved over to America to make films eventually, and stayed there for I guess many decades. But towards the end of the 40s and then beginning of the 50s, he was viewed as a communist sympathizer, and he was ejected, or he was refused re-entry into America, and didn't go back for, I think, 20 years, more than that. So, you know, this is a film where he was definitely not making it to make money. He was not making it to you know, to serve the public's image of what films he should be making. He was making a film that he wanted to make, and I have to respect him even more than I already do for doing so, because it certainly isn't a popular move to take someone who has been the lovable tramp, at one point probably the most iconic you know, person in the world. You know, at the height of his fame, he was huge, Chaplin. You know, even Buster Keaton would say, I love Chaplin. We all love Chaplin. Of course we did. He was the guy. So for him to go against that kind of lovable tramp image and make a film like this, where he is essentially kind of an antagonist, but one that you kind of go along with, it's an interesting film. It really is. And I suppose The Great Dictator might have been a very controversial film at the time as well. So I guess that's only following on from that. But I haven't seen The Great Dictator yet, so there you go. For me, I don't know. I don't know what I think I'll give it a 10. I'll give it a 10. It ain't an 11 out of 10, but it fires on all cylinders that it's supposed to. You know, for the comedy aspect, it makes me laugh a lot. For you know, the kind of drama that goes along with it, like, will he get caught? It really works. And then the emotional human element of it, when he meets that girl and brings her in from the street, and how that changes things, and the way that it's made, and even the editing I thought was fantastic, and the music. So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. Is it a film you must see before you die? I don't know. I kind of think yes, and I kind of think no. I kind of think no because there's so many more films he's made that are so much better, and that serve a better purpose. Not for the same points, I suppose, in terms of this ideal of you know, who says that murder is right in which certain situations. I don't know. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. It is a film you must see before you die, because it's one that you don't expect from Chaplin. At least it's one I didn't expect from Chaplin. So I think it's worth a look, because it might surprise you if you haven't seen it already. And it is, because I haven't seen anything like it. I have not seen a film like it. And it puts together a lot of different elements, but ultimately it works. So yeah, totally. It's a film you must see before you die. I've convinced myself, and thank you for watching.